Dane Brugler of The Athletic does an incredible job breaking down the NFL and draft prospects, and he just had a new top 100 drop that you guys should check out. Came out yesterday. Dane, thanks for joining us in D.C. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. Good afternoon.
Good, buddy.
We're excited for Washington to have pick 7 and to get closer and closer to an opportunity for them to add a baller here. Just bigger picture, your thoughts on sitting at 7 with needs that are wide open. They could really, really use a defensive playmaker, but a wide receiver, even, if Jeremiah Love is there, it wouldn't be the craziest thing in the world. How do you feel about where Washington's at with its needs on this board this year?
Yeah, and I think that when you have a top 10 pick, you want to draft the player that impacts your roster the most. You don't go into the draft saying, well, we definitely need to go with this position or go with that position. It's all about what is going to impact your roster for not just 2026, but beyond in the next few years. And I think that Washington's in an interesting spot coming off a disappointing season, did not live up to expectations, but this is still a team that could be right back in it next year. And so, it's a balance between upside potential, but then also a player that is going to help you pretty quickly, because that's what this team needs. That's what this coaching staff needs. So this is a draft that it's in the top 10. It's maybe not as strong as other drafts, and I know Washington fans don't want to hear that, but unfortunately, that's just kind of the truth of this class. But you're still going to get a first-round quality player, and there's plenty of studs, plenty of playmakers, especially on the defensive side of the ball when you're picking that early.
So you kind of touched on this here, Dan, but I want you to go further in depth if you wouldn't mind. Compare this class to some others. I mean, and what it's going to be known for. I think 2024 will be known as that quarterback draft, and we look back on it the way I look back on the 83 draft from so many years ago. But as we kind of develop a theme from this one, what's it going to be known for, do you think? And then has this class compare to maybe some recent ones?
Yeah, I think it's going to be known for a lot of defense early. And, look at the Super Bowl and the impact that defensive line had on that game. And even if there isn't a Myles Garrett in this class, there's plenty of quality pass rushers who can impact the game in different ways. And so I think we're going to see a lot of edges come off the board pretty quickly. First round, top 50 in that range. But there are a few of those offensive playmakers that you can look at and say, we don't have to squint to see what type of impact this can make for us, whether that's a Jeremiah Love. This is not a great running back class at all, but Jeremiah Love is a stud, and he is right up there with your Bijan Robinsons and Ashton Genty in terms of the top running backs of the last 5 years to come out of the college ranks. He's right there in that mix. You can make a case for any of them as prospects. So he's going to be in that conversation. Ohio State, I think that's going to be one of the maybe takeaways of this year's top 12, top 15, a lot of Buckeyes in there, starting with, in my opinion, the best player in the draft. That's Arvell Reese, the edge linebacker who can do kind of everything you want in the front seven. But right after him, it's Caleb Downs, the safety, who is one of the best safeties that I've ever evaluated. We don't see safeties normally go top 10, and I understand why, but Downs is just a little bit different. And so I don't think that anybody should balk at the idea of drafting a player of that talent in the top 10. Sonny Styles is an absolute stud, 6'4", 240 at linebacker, can blitz, can drop, can do whatever you want him to do. Carnell Tate, the receiver. So a lot of Ohio State players in that top 10 as well.
Dane Brugler of The Athletic on Grant and Danny. So Arvell Reese is not getting to Washington at 7. Can we just kind of put that in pen so we can keep moving, or no?
This is a draft where it's going to be a little wide open because, like I said, I think the top 10 it's not very defined in terms of it's absolutely this guy and then that guy. But aside from Fernando Mendoza at 1, I'm going to keep an open mind, but I'd be very, very surprised if Reese is still around at 7.
So then juxtapose, if you would, for me, the safety from Ohio State, junior Caleb Downs, 6', 205, and then the linebacker, 6'4", 240, Sonny Styles. I don't think they can go wrong. My man crush in this process has been Styles, and I remember a couple months ago thinking, well, maybe they could move back a handful of picks and get Sonny Styles and have their cake and eat it too. And now I'm just worried that he's sitting there at 7. But Downs has long been one of the stars of this class as well. So let's just say, hypothetically, they're debating between those two guys on the board at 7. What are some of your thoughts on each of them?
Downs is a human missile. And he jumps off the film because he plays so fast, so competitive. Not an elite size guy, but he's an elite tackler. And he shows that with the strength at contact, the body control. He works downhill with conviction, but he shows the same high-level reaction skills and coverage as well. So he can mirror patterns, and he has a situational awareness that jumps off the charts. And he played so many different positions over his career at Alabama, then Ohio State. He was a star. He was the money. He was the post. And Matt Patricia, who obviously was in the NFL for so many years, the DC at Ohio State, he used him in all those different ways because he has the intelligence to do that. A lot of disguises, a lot of trap zone coverages. Like, you can do all these different things when you have a player of that intelligence playing at safety. So just the level of consistency from Downs over his 3 years in college, because he was a All-American his first year as a freshman at Alabama for Saban, and then he was a 2-time unanimous All-American for Ohio State. And a big reason they won the national championship last year. So if you're looking for a guy with intelligence, urgency, toughness, can be disruptive from anywhere on the field, that and the intangibles, I think, are going to make Caleb Downs one of the more popular players in this class. And then, I understand completely why you would want to see Sonny Styles on your team next year. And there are plenty of teams, I think the Cowboys at 12 being one of them, that would love to see Styles fall to them at 12. But it'd be hard to see him falling that far because he's just one of the premier talents in this class. Like I said, 6'4", 240, and that's not, Ohio State kind of pumping up the size. He is verified over 6'4", 240 pounds, going to run the 4.5s, and he just turned 21 years old. And this is only his second year as a linebacker. The jump that he made from 2024 to 2025, so impressive. He was a safety when he got to Columbus and made that transition. So the intangibles off the charts. Anticipation got better every year. The tackling got better every year. Didn't miss a tackle until the college football playoffs this past year. So the reaction quickness, the size, speed. Really the only knock I have on Styles is he's not a proven playmaker in coverage. But it's not a weakness to his game per se. I mean, he is a big athlete who can drop. Like I said, he's a former safety. I just would like to see him be a little more impactful with picking off some passes and just be a little bit more of a playmaker. But it feels like I'm nitpicking there.
Breaking down the draft with Dane Brugler here on Grant and Danny. I want to ask you about the receivers, Dane, Jordan Tyson, and Carnell Tate. How do you see them?
Yeah, and I'm going to throw Mekhi Lemon in there as well. I think it's those three as kind of pick what you want. What style of receiver are you looking for? With Tyson, he reminds me a little bit of Stephon Diggs because he can win as a route runner and he wins at the catch point. Very quick in his releases. He can separate. Not really a burner per se, but he just knows how to play the position. He's been banged up over his career, and I think that's something that will get talked about a lot is just, can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the field? Is he going to fight through it? All that kind of stuff. But the talent says he's a first-round pick. Tate, he really stepped up this year. There are a lot of question marks about, because Jeremiah Smith is obviously the number one on that team. Tate was a former 5-star, and could he take that next step this year as a junior? And he absolutely did. His releases and his ability to get open underneath really surprised me. Like a more technically refined version of what we thought, but he can also win down the field. His pacing, the double moves, the way he can win at the catch point is awesome. And then I think Mekhi Lemon belongs in that conversation because, and I think Amon-Ra St. Brown maybe deserves a lot of credit because that's the comp that we're going to hear a lot from Mekhi Lemon. And it's more than just the USC connection, but their toughness from the slot, their ability to play through contact, and just consistently move the chains and get chunk yardage, really, really impressive.
Dane Brugler of The Athletic on Grant and Danny here on The Fan. So Washington picks at 7. We've talked about some of the defensive needs. Edge might actually be the biggest need that they have on the team. David Bailey would make a lot of sense there from Texas Tech. I would love a scouting report from you on what they could be getting from him? Does he play the run, or is it just kind of a speed rusher? And then is there anyone else at the edge that makes sense in that range? Like I keep seeing Ruben Bain. I've kind of thought of him more almost like a D tackle than an edge at the next level. Give me some thoughts on that too.
Yeah, David Bailey. His presence off the edge for Texas Tech was the reason they made the playoffs and won the Big 12. It was his pressures per snap led the FBS. He had 14 and a half sacks, 19 and a half tackles for loss. So explosive off the edge. He played better against the run this past year than he had previously as an underclassman, but it's still an area where you have some question marks. And, I think you're encouraged by the trajectory of where he's headed, but it's still something that is, you're going to worry a little bit about, especially when, you're a rookie and you're in the NFL and you're trying to prove yourself. It's more than just what you can do on third and long and you're getting after the quarterback. So Ruben Bain, I think that's going to be a polarizing player for a lot of people. He, the lack of length, like you said, some teams, they do look at him as a defensive tackle. It's more of a 3 technique. But he was such a presence for Miami in the playoffs down the stretch. His power and ability to move blockers at the point of attack is awesome. And so he's not a super bendy guy who's going to win with pure speed. But, and blockers know what's coming. They just struggle to stop it, even when he tries to go right through you. So, yeah, Ruben Bain will be right there in that mix. I think there's a couple teams, the Commanders, the Bengals. There's a few teams, I think, in that top 10, top 12 that are hoping Ruben Bain's at least one of the options for them still left on the board.
Dane, I couldn't do what you do for a million reasons. I'm not qualified to, but as soon as I got to someone like Kenyon Sadiq, I'd make cartoon hard eyes, and I wouldn't be able to see anything else besides. He looks like He-Man. Like this is all the lack of production I've blamed on everyone else, and like the games where he's got like one catch for 8 yards, it's someone else's fault. Like I am smitten with this dude. A, you can just tell me I'm right, but B, just generally give me your thoughts on him and then the tight end class.
Yeah, he kind of reminds me of Vernon Davis, which is high praise, obviously, when he was coming out of Maryland. Just a freaky guy who I think doesn't even know how good he is yet. But yeah, he's a mismatch waiting to happen because he is a brawny guy and he will give you everything he has as a blocker. He is I wouldn't say like an amazing blocker, but he's above average, and that's, I think, for a guy that's going to be cashing checks based off of what he does as a pass catcher, to give you above average blocking is exactly what you're looking for. But he's able to out-quick linebackers. He's able to out-tough safeties. He can win down the seam. He can break tackles. And so I think that versatility is key. Because, again, what you're looking for is mismatches. That's what you want. That's what you want to draft. That's you want to get that advantage. And Sadiq can be that type of mismatch because you can leave him on the field in 11 personnel, 12 personnel, regardless of the situation. You don't have to take him off the field. And so to give you that presence as a blocker and then as a downfield threat as a receiver, that's something that moves the needle for a lot of teams. And, I don't think he's quite Brock Bowers as a prospect in terms of just the final grade, but he's pretty close. He's in that Sam Laporta, that type of player where should go somewhere in the top 20, top 25.
So Washington, as you know, has 7. We've talked about that. They don't pick again until 71 because they don't have round 2, and then they don't have round 4. So until chunk of the way into round 5, they have 2 picks in the first 140 or so in this draft class, which is a total bummer. And because of that, they're going to want to move back. You said earlier that this is not a strong top 10 comparative to other years. Does that make it less likely to move back then? When you don't have the quarterbacks, it always sounds great that someone's going to come up to get, Caleb Downs or something, but it's very, very rare that teams do. Would you be surprised if they're able to find a dance partner?
For the right value, yeah, I would be surprised. Now, maybe you take a little bit less to move back because you want to recoup some of those day 2 picks, and you're not getting full value. But you just hope that you find somebody that absolutely loves, one of these offensive tackles like Spencer Fano, or somebody that really needs a corner and they want to move up for a Mansour Delane from LSU. you have to get lucky that you find the right dance partner that is really desperate for a certain player, because it's not that type of draft where we're going to see a ton of trades in the top 10, top 12, unless maybe you take a little bit of a discount because you are so just desperate for those day 2 picks. And so for me personally, I have 14 first round grades, which is a little bit lower than your average. Usually it's 18, maybe it's 20. So I only have 14 this year. And so you'd like to stay maybe in that top 14, top 15 if you can, even if you are moving back. But I don't think it'll be very easy this year to really, have the phones blowing up when you're picking there at 7.
Dan, who are a couple guys that you are higher on maybe than the rest of the industry? I'm always curious to see, eye of the beholder in this inexact science here, that someone as knowledgeable as yourself. Who do you like more than maybe the average bear?
I think teams are so desperate for tackles that a guy like Monroe Freeling from Georgia, left tackle, still raw in areas, but he's going to go. I mean, there's just too much talent there. A couple of Indiana players. How can you not appreciate what that team did this year? Obviously, Fernando Mendoza, he's already looking for houses in Vegas. He's going to be the number 1 overall pick. But Omar Cooper Jr., the wide receiver, he doesn't have a lot of flaws to his game. He has enough speed. He can break tackles. The ball skills are outstanding. Went inside, outside. So I think Omar Cooper is in that first round mix. And then D'Angelo Pons, the corner, he's going to get completely overlooked because of the size. And I get it. Like, he's not a big guy, and receivers are going to have an advantage because of that. But, we saw Mikey Sainristil still go, I think, right around top 50. I think it was the 50th pick. And D'Angelo Pons, in my opinion, is right there as well. He belongs somewhere top 40, top 50 as a guy that plays bigger than he looks. He's so competitive. The way that he ball searches, the way that he can turn completions into incompletions, the toughness that he brings, the smarts. I'm going to bet on D'Angelo Pons all day, even though he is 5'8", and you have to overlook the size a little bit.
Dane, excellent information. I've really enjoyed tracking you throughout the college football season as you've kind of moved guys around and made the most of the analysis. Thank you, and we're happy it's draft season.
Yeah, I can't wait. We'll talk again, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Dane.
Check out Dane's work in The Athletic. Does a really good job.